we had come from Paul, when they put Paul and I together, I kind of thought this is going to be great. I got a partner. I got a, and maybe because I was 26 or 27, and I should have been more mature. But again, I go back to not knowing the business of professional wrestling. I go back to that. We come from two different worlds. I lived in a small 1.5 bedroom apartment in a small town in New Jersey, in northern New Jersey. Paul lived in a 2-story townhouse. He had thick plush carpeting. I'll never forget it when I went to his apartment, his townhouse. He had thick plush carpeting. He had black lacquer furniture. He had a china cabinet with Lennox china in it. He had a huge sectional couch. He had a big screen TV for back in that day. He had another, like I said, it was a 2-story. I mean, Paul wore dress slacks with a crease in them and a cuff. He wore nice shoes with tassels on them, and nice collared shirt. He dressed to the nines. I was a blue jean kind of guy growing up. Work boots or flip flops or sneakers, ripped up flannel shirt or a tank top or something like that. It's two people you slap together. That it's just because we come from two different worlds. That's my opinion as to why it didn't work out. There was going to be a clash there. I couldn't relate to being being 26 or 27 years old and having a 2-story townhouse in Connecticut. I just couldn't relate to that. So, and I'm sure he couldn't relate to where I came from. Why Jim would wear jeans and why Paul would wear slacks with a crease in them and nice shoes. But that's Paul. And I'm sure if we have the mentality that we had then, like a lot of people would say, if I had the mentality then that I have now, it would have worked. It would have worked. We would have had the belts. That thing could have went for a long time, But there's no fault of Paul's. I have no ill will, no animosity towards Paul. It's no fault of mine. It was just, as I've said many times, it's just a matter of personality conflicts. Two individuals coming from two different worlds.
Did you expect a big push after going after? I guess you guys worked at the Hart Foundation. You guys went over on them.
Yeah, I think it was a non-title match on a Saturday night main event, I believe, and we went over this, and the company wanted to.
Yeah, what was the story with that?
Well, the company wanted to eventually put the belts on us, but then again, that's something that nobody ever sat and talked with me. With wrestling business, what you have to do is you got to read between the lines. You got to see what the company's doing with you, and then kind of figure out what's going on in their head. Nobody ever sat with us. But, if the company's going to put us over, we had a little run with them for about 7-10 days or whatever on the road, just so the agents could see how the matches were going to be and stuff before they put it on TV. And
easy to work with?
Well, I would say Brett maybe more so than Jim, only because Brett and myself and Paul are all more comparable in size, and Jim was a different style. But in general, I think it was okay. It was okay to work with. It wasn't that fluid because Brett's got a stiff style too. Coming from Calgary and working at, he's in the ring,
right?
Which is good. And people may not like this, but it's just like Chris Benoit. And I'm sorry, but Chris and I had some of my best matches with Chris Benoit. But it was one of those things where Brett, you knew you were in the ring with him, and that was okay by me as long as you can take it back, which he could. He's a tough son of a bitch.
Right.
And Jim, of course, can take anything. Jim played for the Oakland Raiders. So there's nothing that you could do to him that's gonna hurt him. But it was good. It was okay to work with. Yeah. It would have been nice to be able to do more with Jim, but it's a different style. But we got it in with Brett.
Okay. As far as that match, was Brett and Jim okay with putting you guys over? Or did you guys ever hear anything behind the scenes?
I heard behind the scenes that they had no problem with it. I think I heard from maybe from Brett. I think it was from Brett that he was talking about. He was talking about that he would have no problem dropping the belts to us. He also I remember after Paul and I were done, and Paul was with Irk,
right?
That they wanted to put the belts. Paul always pushed. Paul was more of an aggressive businessman than I was, but they wanted to put the belts. Paul wanted belts. And they wanted the belts from the Hart Foundation. Him and Herc, or Paul probably wanted them more. But anyway, Brett refused. I heard that Brett refused to drop the belts to Paul and Hercules. He would drop them though to the Nasty Boys.
Right.
But in the same token, that he had no problem dropping the belts to me and Paul at the time.
I guess it was frustrating for you as a person, a performer, when he had his run with Herc, and then he pretty much had no
Nah,
chance.
you know what? In hindsight, maybe it should have been. Maybe it should have bothered me. But in hindsight, a lot of things are 2020 and crystal clear. It didn't bother me. It was almost kind of like getting rid of a bad girlfriend.
Right.
And Paul, don't take offense to this, but I'm sure we both probably felt like a little bit like,
Relief.
like, yeah, a little bit of a relief. The tension was gone. It's the tension and the stress was gone. So it was but it would have been great if it could have worked out. But we didn't have then the mentality we have now.